Hello everyone. So I don't know whether there will still be about 200 followers, but I was looking, at the end of every Insta live video, right? So they will tell you how many people in total viewed, and it was about 700 plus. I think it's more than most of my episodes so far. So it's quite crazy. So uh, I'm quite sure Megan has a large following. Okay. So there's still a lot of people joining. So. Haikal, isn't this a bit too late for you as a father to three children? Anyway,
They need to get the
hi.
inside scoop.
Okay. So feel free to type in your questions, and I think that was fun. I didn't even feel like it was 1
Same.
hour, just now. Yeah. So
I'm getting lots of comments from friends who like know you as my prof, saying that you're a lot more like fun and approachable than they thought you would have been.
okay.
This is why I
I
enjoy
don't know
school so
whether
much.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or bad thing, but yeah. So I
I think
think
it's a good thing. Maybe they feel like their profs are like very unapproachable, but you're such a breath of fresh air.
okay. Saying all the right things. I want to say flattery would get you nowhere, but I mean, it got you this session. So,
It got me
but anyway, so let's deal. So, what are your own thoughts, Megan? So, when you see if I were to ask you, right, between the three front. Oh, by the way, we haven't mentioned Desmond Lee at all, right? So, because I never thought that he was one of the front runners, but it seems like the newspapers think he's a front runner. So, who knows what will happen in 4 to 5 years, right? But at the moment, I don't see him as a front runner. But let's say if I were to ask you between the current cabinet, who would you choose?
Who would I choose?
Yeah, who you choose personally? Megan Chia, who would you choose?
I think I would choose between Lawrence Wong or Ong Ye Kang, even though he's not technically like a front runner,
Right,
but
right, right.
those would be the two ministers that I'm more inclined to.
Because?
Um, hmm. I would say that I feel that they are able to reach a wide range of demographics more, and especially I'm thinking about people who are around my age who may not necessarily. I think a lot of people my age don't really think that well of Chan Chun Sing,
Oh,
and he
I hope
doesn't
he watches this. No,
he
honestly, because I think that's important feedback for him, right? Yeah.
yeah, because he doesn't seem approachable like at all, and he is not accessible. Like I
He
don't know
doesn't
any.
appear accessible. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't appear accessible. Like I don't really know much about him, like besides his like little like scandals.
What
Whereas
scandal? It's not scandal.
that's like the lingo that
Public
we use.
relations mistakes, right? Yeah, scandal is
Okay.
too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, scandal. Yeah, sounds so scandalous, but yeah. But yeah,
We
okay,
like to
okay, fair
spice
enough.
it up.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. So I think all the more, right? I mean, anybody who knows Minister Chan or who's working with him, all the more, he should come on this show, and have a chat. And maybe we can help him with his image, right? Yeah, yeah. So because I really think is there is an image problem for sure, even from someone who actually likes him. I think
Mm-hmm.
there is an image issue for sure. Yeah. So there was a question: should the PM be elected instead of selected? Well, that's not our system. That's the presidential system, and that system, ours, is the parliamentary system, and that system has its flaws. It has its strengths as well. So the strength of that system, presidential system, you choose the head of government. Voters directly can elect the head of government. The the flaw of that system is if you have a very, very charismatic individual, it can bypass parties. It may be a good thing or may be a bad thing if you have a populist like Donald Trump, for instance, or President Duterte, right? And you have some as well in South America. It's easier for them to get elected through the presidential system than the parliamentary system. Not that they cannot get elected through the parliamentary system, but it's easier through the presidential system. Yeah.
Okay,
So
somebody asked,
yeah,
what do you think Chan Chun Sing can or should or will do in MOE to improve his image?
yeah. I think there are a few things that he can do, which I think I did say earlier, right? I think he should come on this show. He should appear more approachable with regards to the opposition as well. I think that will help. That will help. treating the opposition better as well, publicly, and also, just what you said, right? I think MOE, he has a lot of opportunities to engage with young people, and he should make use of every single opportunity. I think he should go to every university dialogue that he can, every secondary school, every JC as much as possible, right? Also, Haikal said he can stop admin work for teachers, and he probably would get a lot of votes, and I think that's quite true as well. So yeah, so I think it's a good ministry for him. I think it's a good ministry in terms of bolstering his credentials.
Okay, I have a question from
Sure.
Jonghan.
Okay.
Yes, he said that DPM Heng used age as the main reason to step down. Is that to also eliminate Taman from the start, since Taman is 64 and Heng Swee Keat is 60? And maybe to zoom out from that, like why did Heng Swee Keat use his age as a reason to step down?
So I don't think it was to eliminate Taman. I don't think that was the intention, although that may have been an effect. But I think if you think about it, what else could he have said? What else could he have said other than age? Because he said he was in good health, right? So the other thing that he would say is health. But he said he's in good health. So there's no other thing that he could have said. So now I don't necessarily think that may be what he feels. And if he feels he doesn't want to run, he shouldn't run. As in, he doesn't want to be PM, he shouldn't be PM. But I do think that there are a few problems with that. First, it's not as if he didn't know his age beforehand. So it seems quite strange. Secondly, if you are healthy enough, I think you are old or young enough. So health matters more. Some people, they are extremely young but not healthy. They shouldn't be ministers as well. Some people are extremely old but they are healthy as well, right? We don't have to look far, right? Joe Biden is not exactly the youngest person. In fact, people were saying there were some issues with his sharpness, which you can see as well because of his age. But Bernie Sanders is pretty old as well. Donald Trump is pretty old, and closer to home you have Dr. Mahathir, right? Who's still fighting as he always has done. So I don't think age. And it's pretty ageist, especially when we want to encourage healthy aging and encourage people increasing the retirement age. So it doesn't make sense, right? So I personally don't think. But as I said, if you feel that you cannot do the job, you shouldn't do it. So yeah.
Okay, since you mentioned, like other leaders, I just suddenly thought of a question, which is, how do you think, or does the cabinet reshuffle at all affect, Singapore's, I guess, global image, or like its image towards the rest of the world?
Right. Okay. So that's an excellent question. So I think it definitely didn't help the spanner in the succession planning. Definitely didn't help with Singapore's public image, international image rather, right? Because Singapore is known for doing this. But I don't think it's a disaster on the international front. So I don't think that is ultimately what other countries or investors are interested in. I think as long as Singapore is stable and Singapore remains business friendly, I think that's all ultimately people are going to be interested in. So yes, it's not really a problem. It's not really useful for the PAP and Singapore's image, but it's not a huge problem, I think. Yeah. So Professor Yan Chong, so one of my mentors, he asked in Malay, he said, when are you going to enter politics? He said he's waiting to vote for me. And yeah, exactly. So the answer is hopefully never, right?
Never.
Never, yes, yeah. So if the moment I enter politics, right, then Megan wouldn't want to do this with me already, right?
Are we like, Walid, I don't know him.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I don't think I would ever do that. I don't think I'm. It's not something that I think I'm gonna be particularly good at as well. So.
Okay, somebody asked, would you agree that the next PM should be someone well versed in China matters? And I think that is a really important question, considering the geopolitical tensions between US and China, which are growing.
I think the next PM should be well versed in international affairs, and I think I have no doubts that is what the PAP will do for the next PM. They will train all of them to be very well versed in in international affairs, not just China affairs specifically, which I think is very important, but also American affairs, right? American domestic politics as well. And of course, you need the civil service, the relevant ministries to be particularly well versed in those issues as well. Yeah.
And do you think any of the front runners have an edge in that area?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't think I know the answer to that question. What I would say is, I think Minister Ong Ye Kung probably has an edge in terms of the Chinese worldview, but that's the Chinese educated worldview
Yep.
in Singapore, right? So I think there's the edge. But what my sense of Minister Chan Chun Sing is his worldview of the world is pretty much similar in terms of international affairs, pretty much similar to Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's worldviews in terms of survival, vulnerability. That's the sense that I get from him. So there was a question. So Audrey says yes. You need we need me to be on the outside. I completely agree. So. Let's look at the other side. Does Pritam have what it takes to become the next PM? Well, that question is, at the moment, right, it's premature, right, to ask that question because the WP only has 10 seats. It doesn't make sense to ask that question. But because it's been asked and because it's way past my bedtime, I'm going to answer anyway.
He'll humor you.
Well, I think he does. I think in terms of, I don't know how he's going to run a ministry and so on, right? So I don't know. I mean, he hasn't been tested in that area. In terms of giving calmness, in terms to the nation, in terms of galvanizing people, in terms of showing leadership, I think he won a lot of hearts during the election, especially how he handled Raisa's case. And even, my very first Teh Tarik session, I asked Professor Yaakob Ibrahim, right, a former PAP minister, does he agree that Pritam was a man of the match of the election? And he pretty much said he has to be fair and give Pritam a lot of credit. So I think even within the PAP, they saw that Pritam, I mean, he got basically universal acclaim, I think. So, but again, how he would do in a ministry, I mean, we don't know because he hasn't been tested. Yeah.
Yeah. I think on that note, we had a question in the previous session asking if
Sure.
the PAP could take any, I guess, like take a leaf out of WP's like book when it comes to like handovers. So like the handover to Pritam, for example.
Okay, so before that, so there's a comment, Fiacra, by the time the WP builds up enough seats for a WP PM, Pritam would have stepped back and Nicosia would take the helm. Nicosia will be Singapore's first woman PM. No problems with that. No problems with that. So can the PAP take a leaf out of WP? Well, don't forget, WP's transition wasn't exactly smooth as well. People forget that just a couple of years ago, there was a leadership contest between Chen Shomao and Lau Tia Kiang. So there was some hints of fissures within the WP as well. So that's the first thing. And second thing is the WP at the moment is a small enough party. And when you have that, when you have a smaller party, it's much easier to control things. Whereas when you have a larger party, larger machinery, the advantage is, yes, you have the larger machinery, but the disadvantage is now there are more personalities, egos, and so on to manage and handle. Yeah, so I don't think the comparison is exactly fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have another question from Jong Han who asks, how long will Minister Shanmugam, the dragon of the PAP, stay on with the 4G? Will he still play the role of the Iron Fist, and who in the 4G can take over that particular role?
Okay, so this is a question I have to navigate very No, okay, so I think he will still stay on. I suspect probably as Deputy Prime Minister. Probably, I don't know, but okay, again, no inside information. It's not as if Minister Chan is on my WhatsApp and he told me. No, he didn't tell me. So I suspect he will be. I suspect he's gonna stay on. The question is, can anybody replace him? I think he's a very unique figure in Singapore politics. So I don't think anybody can replace him and do the job that he does. The question is, do we need somebody like that moving forward, right? I know a lot of people say Edwin Tong, because probably he's going to be Minister of Law one day and so on. I don't know whether he has that same kind of aura. So I think maybe Dr. Janil probably would be more suited for that position. But I mean, I don't know how okay, in the first place, whether we still need that. That question presumes that we need that kind of approach in politics moving forward. I am not sure about that. I'm not sure that moving forward we need the iron-fisted approach towards opposition and towards people in society as well. So yeah.
When will Minister Shan come on Teh Tarik with Walid?
Next question. So okay, so this is my stance, right? Whoever wants to come on, they are welcome, as long as I'm confident that they will not say anything libelous during the Teh Tarik. So I doubt any of the PAP MPs or ministers would do that, right? So I doubt any of them would. So anytime they want to come on, they are welcome.
Open invite.
Anytime. So I've invited as many of the 4G ministers as possible. None of them have said yes so far. So I will try again, definitely. But if I get an email tomorrow, oh, can we have the session? I say, okay. At your convenience, we'll have a session. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have invited Lawrence Wong. I have invited Chan Chun Seng, Ong Ye Kang, Masagos, and a few others. I haven't gotten a yes yet.
Maybe we need to start like a petition. Because petitions always work in Singapore, right?
Yeah. So we don't need to start a petition. But yeah, I think I will continue asking. Yeah, I will continue asking.
I saw a question that said, what are your thoughts about a female PM? And
right, okay.
I think that's an interesting question, right? Because identity politics is just becoming like such a hot topic. And I don't know, I'm on the fence about it because I don't really feel like a female PM is necessary. Like it would be nice or it would be good, but I don't really feel like there's a need to kind of like polarize it that way.
Right. So by the way, people are saying, oh, invite Taman. I have invited Speaker Tan as well. So I know that the names that you think would probably readily come on, I have invited them. It's just that I haven't gotten a yes yet. But anyway, so that's an interesting question, because the question for a female PM, right, I think at this point in time is a theoretical question. Right? It's a theoretical question because I don't think amongst the female ministers we have one who you would say is probably prime ministerial caliber at the moment amongst the three ministers. I mean, I think they are all right. I mean, Minister Indrani, Minister Graceful, but they are not in the running to be PM. I think for the non-Chinese prime minister, that is not a theoretical question. That's actually a possibility, right? Because SM Taman, I would say, is heads and shoulders above everybody else, right? So I think the two are not the same questions. Now, so for the 4G, maybe that is a theoretical question, but I think for the 5G, it's no longer a theoretical question, because I do see that possibly Gan Xiaohang MOS Gan Xiaohang can be should be in the conversation at least. I mean, I think from my observations, preliminary observations of her performance in Parliament, she's been doing quite all right. So I think she should be in the conversation for the 5G. So not that theoretical questions are not important, because theoretical questions, they set basically the moral agenda of the nation, and you should discuss them as well. But when you put meat to the bones, then the question becomes even more meaningful, I think.
Right. But do you think it's a meaningful, I guess, distinction to have, like a female PM versus like a male PM?
Okay, so I cannot speak for that. I think you are in a better position to speak for that. So I'll let you speak on that. I will talk to the minority PM, right? So I think I wouldn't want a minority PM to be there just because he's minority, right? So that's not what I mean when I talk about Chinese privilege and all. You know, I don't want to revisit that for this session, right? I don't want special treatment for the minorities. I want equal treatment. So I want a minority PM who's good enough to be PM, like Taman. So I don't want anybody just because he or she is minority to be the PM. That's not what I want, right? So for me personally, it must be merit-based, right? Now, I do think there is an important element, the aspirational element, because when young girls, for instance, see a female prime minister, then they would think, oh, the glass ceiling is not there. and for minorities as well. So I think there is an aspirational element. So people who think it's important, I have no problems with that. I can completely see that. But for me, I don't think the aspirational element is enough to override the merit element. And the reason why many people, including myself, are upset about Taman is not the reason that was given initially wasn't that he's old or he's this and he's that. Is because he's not Chinese, and I think that goes against merit, right? So somebody said you do not want a credible candidate to be ruled out just because she's female. Obviously, I completely agree with that. But I don't want people to start thinking, oh, so let's say there is a gap in the position. So we must have amongst the contenders there must be a Malay, there must be an Indian, there must be a female, there must be this. So I think if you're good enough, you shouldn't be prevented, right? Regardless of your race, religion, gender, and so on. Yeah.
Right.
So what do you think about that, the female question especially?
I think I would agree I would agree, especially with regards to the aspirational element. I don't feel like there are barriers to a female entering politics, and we see that in the PAP, like there are female politicians, and in fact not even just in PAP, female politicians in general have like shown their merit, right, in being like very popular amongst voters, like Nicosia, for example. Though not popular enough in 2020.
Oh wow! Throwing shade at Nicosia now. Okay.
No,
So that's
I
the
like
end of this
Nicosia,
IG. Oh yeah.
Tim Pei-ling has performed so well as
I agree.
right. So
I completely
so
agree.
I don't necessarily think that we need a female to take up the role of a PM in order for there to be like that aspirational element.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
I think that's fair. What I would say is I think for other people maybe is an important, and I think that's fair as well.
Yep.
So Suhairi said merit is very important. That's why the European Super League is a bad idea. I completely agree. But the European Super League, that is capitalism at its worst, right? That's why you need regulation against big businesses. But anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked and distracted. Yeah.
Okay. Jong, just rewinding back.
Why
a
are you
little
just
bit,
asking questions from Jong Han? Like
because the questions are interesting, they're spicy.
okay.
And I welcome questions from anyone on the floor.
Okay, yes.
Going back to the discussion on iron-fisted Minister Shanmugam, he says that yes, we do need someone like that with the growing given that there's growing extremism from all sides. What are your thoughts on that?
But I mean, I don't know. What does he mean when he needs some? I mean, we have the laws in place already. So what does he mean? So I'm not sure. So I think there's also a tendency to look at strength through this macho, loud, high-handed approach, right? Whereas I think there are other ways of showing strength, right? Like Jacinda Ardern, I think, has shown strength through compassion, for instance. So I think we can reimagine, the rules of ministers and how ministers should conduct themselves. I don't necessarily think that the iron-fisted approach is always needed, or if it's needed, I would say it should be the last resort, right? But I think we can agree to disagree on that.
Okay. I have a question that I think would be quite interesting for the viewers. Sean asks, do you think there would be significant difference or variation in the leadership styles or personal ideological worldview of any of the front runners?
I don't think so, which is why sometimes I feel like we are playing this guessing game, right? Which is fun. It's fun. I like to partake in this as well, or who's going to be the next prime minister and so on. But I'm not sure whether that's the most important question. I think it's an important question, but it's not the most important. I think I'm more interested in institutions, building institutions which would bring out the best in individual politicians and constrain the worst in them, right? And if you look at the PAP, one of their strengths is that they have ideological conformity. That's because of the cadre party system, right? Because you're selected to be a cadre. So if you're going to select somebody, you're probably going to select somebody who thinks like you generally, right?
Yeah.
It's at least on the core ideologies. So I don't think if a split ever happens in the PAP, so it's nowhere nowhere near on the horizon. But if it does happen, it wouldn't be on ideological lines, I think. Or it's less likely to be along ideological lines. It's more likely to be along personal lines.
Right. Okay. And are female ministers not given adequate opportunities to helm the top 5 ministries?
Well, I think there is a case to be made for that. Yes, I think there is a case to be made for that. I mean, if you think about 50% of the population being female, right, then roughly you should get. But of course, there are barriers, which are societal barriers or institutional barriers, which need to be overcome. But I think the fact that you have not had a female minister ever helming one of the 5 ministries, I think that can be corrected, and that should be corrected.
Okay. And so speaking about structure of the parties and of our government in general, in the future when 4G holds leadership, can we see the prospective PMs being open to a national unity government with other parties?
Okay, so national unity government, right? At the moment, what's the point of that? When the PAP has 83 of the 93 seats, right? The unity is actually the PAP already has a national unity government, right? Because they have 83 seats already. So I think given the numbers that we have now, those are I'm not sure whether those are useful questions to discuss. Yeah, because that's so far away, I think. Yeah.
Okay, then maybe let's not go to the extreme of a national unity government. But do you think there's a possibility that the PAP and opposition parties will work closely together, and not just on personal accounts, but changes in the structure of the party, the ideologies of the party?
Right. So I think in many cases they do, right? So I think Lau Tia Kiang was praised before by PM Lee for his stances on foreign policy, for instance, right? So if you're talking about that kind of ideological overlaps, I think you already see that to some extent. But when you say they work together, what exactly do you mean? Because ultimately they are political opponents, right? By definition, they are supposed to oppose each other, and I think a healthy competition between the two sides actually brings out the best in both of them, and is best for Singaporeans. We shouldn't just want them to be thinking this along the same lines all the time. We want the opposition to be opposing. Otherwise, there's no need to have the opposition, right? So we mustn't also, while we must be careful of polarization, we mustn't also exaggerate the importance of unity. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And what kind of ideological biases do you think the PAP should overcome?
Okay, so what I would say is, if you compare GE 2011, it's a long-winded way of answering the question. Okay, so GE 2011, the PAP suffered a drop in votes because it was a rejection of policy. In GE 2020, it was a rejection of politics. Remember how the GE campaigning essentially started? How it started is the attack on Alfian Sa'ad, which I think a lot of people would say was uncalled for, including myself. And then you have the Raisa Han incident as well. So I think that is something that can and should be changed with regards to the PAP, with regard to the opposition. I think how the PAP deals with the opposition broadly, not just opposition parties, but opposing voices in society as well. I think that's one ideological change that can happen. So somebody asked, do you not see a difference between, I think Brian asked, Ong Ye Kung and Chan Chun Sing different in ideology? Well, not really. Not fundamentally. I think obviously they are different human beings. They have different ideas about certain things. But I think fundamentally, I don't see a huge difference between them.
Yeah, and like you said, that is very much to do with the cadre party system that is in place, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and
so has the PAP lost East Coast?
Yes, I was going to ask
another
that.
question. Well, it depends on whether, according to you, or not according to you, according to one of the questions, whether the next Prime Minister of Singapore, Nicole Seah, contest. No. Okay, so there are many things right here, because 4 years is a long time from now. So we need to know who are the opposition figures contesting in East Coast, who will be the new anchor minister in East Coast. That matters as well, right? So obviously I cannot answer that question now, but definitely if I were an East Coast voter who who chose the PAP because of DPM Heng, I think I would be a little upset at the very least. Yeah.
So do you think such a PAP ideological change, like what you mentioned just now, is more likely to happen in the future?
I think they have no choice.
Agreed.
I think they have to change. Now, that doesn't mean they will, but I think they have to. And I think, as I said, when Minister Shan said they need to do some soul searching, I mean, they understand. They understand that, right? They understand that they have no choice. They have to change. So there is a question of Vivid Sparkle, and I want to ask you, Megan, why do you stand Nicole Seah? You said you love her, right? So why do you stand her?
I mean, I think she's very articulate. Like to me, that is like the quality of hers that draws me most to her, right? When she speaks, I want to listen, and the ideas that she articulates are ones that I agree with. And of course, I mean, I do like what the WP has been championing, like in the general elections. So like amongst the WP, I would say that she's like one of the stronger candidates.
All right. So I almost feel, I mean, I agree with you. I almost feel insulted by this comment by Iggy Pereira. Lim Tian is articulate. Putting Lim Tian and Nicole Seah in the same sentence. But okay, we shall agree to disagree on that, Iggy Pereira. So I personally, because Nicole is actually around my age, so she's around 27, okay? 20% discount. So she's around my age, and she actually was younger than me. She was younger. She is younger than me, but around the same age. And when she rose to prominence in 2011, I said, "Oh my God, that's somebody my age who's basically taking on the previous prime minister, the former prime minister of Singapore, and being so articulate at such a young age." So it was. I think many people my generation see that in her as well. So what I see. So yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of her, and I've made it quite known. But again, as I said, we shouldn't stand politicians. Yeah.
Right. And I see
Yeah.
a lot of disagreement that you are around the same age as Nicole Seah. Things to
No,
note.
I am.
You cannot get away with some lies, Prof.
No. We are around the same. She's 1 year younger than I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not even lying. Anyway, yeah.
We need to see the
She
proof.
she was the darling of GE 2011, Haikal said, and that's absolutely true. So, and she also rose to prominence, right? Partly in opposition to Tin Pei Ling, who at that time her public image was terrible. And herein perhaps is a lesson for us who are analysing Minister Chan Chun Sing as well. I think Tin Pei Ling has sort of recovered from that image spectacularly. So I think it's not impossible to do that. It's not impossible to do that.
Yeah. I think personally for me, like with Nicole Seah, there is like an aspirational element there, like for sure. Like to see a woman in politics who is like so well received, right? I mean, because like for me, the direct comparison would be exactly that, like Tin Pei Ling, and she didn't exactly have like the best like breakthrough, you know.
Right. Okay. So Megan, I think you love this comment, or I don't know. So Megan suddenly looks a bit like Nicole Seah.
Oh my god.
Okay, and Sab said Ramadan cannot lie. Okay, so yeah, I'm not lying. Nicole is 1 year younger than me. The 27 part, that's not a lie. That's stretching the truth. Okay, so depends if you minus holidays.
True.
If you exactly, if you minus holidays, public holidays, yeah. So and weekends. So I think I am about 27. Yeah.
Okay, on the topic of opposition, I actually have a question from Jong that I am personally interested in as well.
Again from
Jong
Han.
I'm asking it.
So might as well we bring him into this. Okay, yeah. What's the question?
Okay, the question is on the performance of the new opposition MPs like Jamus and I don't want to butcher her name, even though I've heard it so many times.
Raisa.
Yes, Raisa. Yes.
Yeah,
have they lived up to the hype and expectations? And I think this is it is especially prevalent for Jamus because of recent happenings.
Yeah, I think. So what do you mean recent happenings?
I mean, I read a lot of criticisms about what he has been saying in Parliament, with regards to like ideas of like equality
Right.
and like changing the laws.
Right. So I think he's from my observations, he's doing pretty all right. I think James has been active in and I always see, the more the PAP, the more the number of PAP MPs who rise to oppose you, the better a job you are doing as an opposition MP. So I think James is probably doing well on that front. I mean, I have probably some quibbles with Dr. James Lim. I'll save that for when he comes on. I have some some questions to ask of him, but I'll save that for when he comes on. So now, I would say for Raisa, it's a different matter. I think for Raisa, I mean, I was one of those who hashtag I stand with Raisa as well. She's pretty much, she's a very, very young MP, right? And there's a lot of things that were going on for her, especially during the elections. I think if whatever happened to me while I was pregnant, I would just crumble and never see anybody ever again in my life. So I think she's such a strong personality, right? So my assessment, again, this is not based on any inside information, right? But just through observation, it seems that the Workers' Party is very careful in handling her appearances, her public appearances. And I think it's for the better as well at this point. I'm sure, at 26, 27, she's raring to go and she has a lot to say. I'm sure she wants to defend herself in public and stuff. I think the party is probably managing her appearances pretty well. So maybe we have not seen the best of her, but I have no doubts that she will grow as an MP, as most young MPs do eventually. I mean, at 32, you will be wiser and smarter than when you were at 27, right? Otherwise, you would have wasted the five years of your life, right?
Yep.
That should happen, right? So yeah, I think she will definitely develop more over the years. Yeah, it's still
Okay.
too early to judge her performances, I think.
And I have two related questions. One is regarding the criticism that James is an ivory tower analyst. That one I've seen so much of.
Yeah.
And then what do you think of James's proposal on minimum wage?
Right. So I am for minimum wage, although I think the rebuttals by SM Taman did make sense as well. I think it's an ongoing debate. I think the fact that one of the things that the Workers' Party has gotten the PAP to say is that we agree on the principle. And for me, that's already a huge step.
Yep.
It's a huge step. And it's only when you push in a particular direction, when you push it further, right, then you sort of force people to go to the middle a little bit, right? So I think in a sense that they have been pretty successful for that. But I think this is a policy debate on minimum wage. You can refer to the episode I had with Leon, and I think he made a strong case for it. But I can completely see why people would think that minimum wage is not ideal. I can completely see the arguments for that as well. The arguments about him being an ivory tower, I mean, that's an easy criticism to make. I usually don't pay too much attention to that. Although what I would say is he has to be careful, I think, in not appearing too elitist. Whether he is a different matter, but I think he has to be careful to not give out that perception. And he shouldn't come across as that. So that's what I would say with regard to James. Yeah, I'll save more for when he agrees to come on.
Have you approached him?
I have, and he's open to it. I think after this I need to push him a little bit further. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. We have a question.
Take the more fun ones, Megan.
The more fun ones. Okay, you guys gotta send some like spicy questions. Okay. speaking of WP, who do you think will take over Sylvia Lim as party chair?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of the WP. But what I do know is JJ, Yi Zhenzhong, he mentioned in his book that the two candidates that they were thinking of, the party was thinking of to replace Lau Tai Kiang was Pritam Singh and Leon Pereira.
Okay.
And the other one was Gerald Giam. So I think we should be looking at these three. I mean, after, Leon and I think Gerald, I think they have a long runway also. And of course, and I really mean this. I think Nicole as well. So we should be looking at. I really mean that.
I agree.
So yeah, we can look at that. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I think questions are kind of slowing down, which is
Yeah.
appropriate
Anyway,
because we are about
it's
to end
1
as well.
a.m.
Yes.
It's 1 a.m. So any 5G PAP MPs to look out for? Well, I would say Gan Xiao Huang is one that I have been quite impressed with. Not that I have she's from the military and therefore it means no. As in, I really have no attraction towards military personnel, right? It's just from her performances in Parliament. I think she seems pretty good. So I think she is somebody that we should look out for. So what about you, Megan? Which new PAP MP or opposition MP, one each, that who have or has impressed you?
Impressed me.
Yes.
Okay. I think for WP, it has kind of like remained the same. For me, it's still Nicole Seah. I kind of thought that I would have been more
Oh, so
impressed
candidate, right? Okay. You would have been more impressed by?
by Jamus
Okay.
because
So
he
you are,
performed so well in the elections. But
but you
I
haven't been too impressed by him.
yeah, I mean, I like the things that he talks about, but I don't know if it's just because like I personally agree with it, or or it's more like basically that I align more with him, and I do feel that he is kind of missing the mark on being, how do I put it? Maybe like accessible, like to Singaporeans who might not agree with like policies such as like minimum wage, right? Because as much as like his role is definitely about bringing these issues to the table, and these issues are things that are not easy to talk about because it is not something that the PAP has been talking about, right? But I think there's something to be said for the fact that there is so much criticism surrounding what he's sharing in Parliament.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I think there will be, if you are in the opposition, there will be a lot of criticisms anyway, and I don't think, I think that should be the case anyway. I don't think any parliamentarian, government or opposition should be free from criticism, right? So I think there was one question, if what about the PSP's performance? Who's the one who's asking this? The if 55. So, PSP performance in Parliament, good or bad? I would say it hasn't been too impressive. That's what I would say. So I definitely think that they can utilize the seats far more than they are doing now. So in the same vein, is the PSP being too much of a personalist party? Well, I think so. I think if Tan Cheng Bock retires, then they are in a lot of trouble at the moment as things stand. I think there is definitely a lot of they are in a lot of trouble. Yeah.
Okay, and can you speak to the leadership shakeup of the PSP? Is Tan Cheng Bock not Secretary General because he
Johan
was...
again. You're taking a question from Johan again.
I didn't say the name, but you caught me.
Okay, so possibly he's gearing for a presidential run, assuming he can run. I think if he can run, he will run. The leadership shakeup, even if he doesn't run as president, there needs to be a leadership change in the party. I think they need to move beyond Dr. Tan. So yeah. So it's amazing. We still have about 120 people live after 2 hours at 1 a.m.
People are trying to get woke here.
I think I should have just more sessions with you, you know. But I was thinking of having more sessions with, you know, the people I mentioned at the top, you know, Joel, for
Yep.
instance, Audrey, or Angie, and you know, the Weird and Wild. Yeah, I think we can. I will have more sessions. Hopefully, if they are agreeable, I'll definitely ask them more. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm actually suddenly getting like a lot of questions about Chan Chun Singh's new appointment.
Oh, I didn't see.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, I cannot see them. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
okay. I'll summarize them, some of them.
Okay, sure.
So one of it is how do you think an average student will be affected by Chan Chun Singh's new appointment? What policy changes do you think he may make? And do you see greater academic freedom with Chan Chun Singh at MOE?
Yeah, so I think firstly I mean I don't know. The first question, I don't know what are the policy changes that he's, but you know, one thing that we can sort of expect, right? If you are in the running to be prime minister, and you need to have a tick on your list, right? And you probably would want something big, right? Like what Ong Ye Kung did, right? The removing streaming. That was pretty big. It's pretty big. So I think you can expect something. What is it? I don't know. No, so the academic freedom, I don't think it's just down to Minister Chan Chun Sing. I think it's down to the party as a whole and what is the approach. And I think, don't forget, the 3G is still in charge at this point in time, as we discussed in the earlier session. Yeah, so I don't think we should just be looking at individuals and ignoring systems.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
More flag raising in schools. Oh, people are really unkind to Minister Chan Chun Sing. Or maybe they're just trolling me. I don't know. Yeah.
They're just trying to spice up the chat.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, on Tan Cheng Bock, how receptive do you think people will be of his presidential run? And would people think that he's, you know, kind of like just going all over the place and putting his eggs in every basket?
I think I've underestimated Tan Cheng Bock once. I won't do it again. I think people will be pretty receptive. Don't forget, he almost took out two ministers, you know. Minister Iswara and Minister Desmond Lee. So he almost took out two ministers. And honestly, people don't even know who, at that point in time, I think many of them still do not know who were his running mates, right? Other than Hazel and Manwai. Now they know because they are NCMPs. But it was all about Tan Cheng Bock. So
Right.
If he gets to run, I think he would be an extremely formidable force.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So okay, Megan, maybe I'll ask you a question, right?
Oh,
Since we
okay.
have only about 10 minutes, right? So what do you think, Megan? What do you think is the number one issue for people your age? What is the number one political issue, or two or three political issues?
Wow, you're putting me on the spot here.
Yes, because you said I was hypocritical. I don't forget that.
Okay, wow. I shouldn't have given him so hard.
No, I'm
facing
kidding. I'm
now.
kidding. Yeah, that was a fair question. Don't worry.
Let me think.
What is it that you guys always talk about, right?
What do we talk about?
TikTok.
I
I hope not. I hope not.
TikTok policies.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody said climate change. Well, I do feel like that is an important aspect to think about. I don't think it has kind of like been in the like I don't think it will become like a front runner issue. Somebody said housing prices. I think that is super relevant. Or housing policies in general. I think because like especially people of my age, I'm 22. And a lot of people
So
my
we
age
are
are like
about the same age, basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at like BTO resale flats, things like that. So definitely housing prices. I would, the first thing that popped into my mind was obviously inequality, right? And right, I mean, Teo Yo Yan's book on this is what inequality looks like. That sparked so much debate, and I think more than ever there has been a lot of conversations about inequality. I guess for me personally, what I would be looking at in terms of the discussion about inequality is how that will how that will translate into policies. because it seems like I feel like everybody is like they will say like, oh yes, I'm for
Right.
more
Right.
equality,
Right.
but then when it
Right.
actually
Right.
comes to, you know, growing up and then having to bear the burden of
Right.
you know, evening out the inequality, that's a different story, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, many
Right.
people say like when you grow older you become like more conservative, and there is a reason why,
Right.
right? Because then you end
Exactly.
up being the one like paying like the taxes,
Exactly.
and you are the one who kind of evens out that playing field, right? So
Right.
for me, that would be what one of the key things that I would be looking at.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I think inequality probably is one of the most important issues, if not the most important issue. I think climate change is an important issue. I think it's the existential issue of our generation. No, no generations. Okay, our generation. But I'm not sure whether politically it will be
Yeah, agreed.
an issue,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people they pay performative gestures, and they
Yep.
performative lip service to climate change. But anyway, so inequality definitely, and I think I said we shouldn't stand politicians, but we definitely should stand Teo Yo Yan. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. Trying to get her to do this as well, just her alone to talk about inequality. Yeah, so hopefully that works. Yeah, so
But
I
I mean,
think we can take. Yeah,
oh, I
sure,
was
carry
gonna
on.
ask like for your opinion on how inequality or how these discussions of inequality will eventually translate into policies.
I think one of the things that I'm pretty confident of, that the 4G will move left economically.
Okay.
Maybe not as much as a lot of people on the left would like, but I think
Mm-hmm.
they will move left
Okay.
economically, on economic issues, not on political issues is a different matter. But I think on economics, and I think uh, Professor Teo can take a lot of credit for that in
Right.
terms of putting
Agreed.
inequality on the table, and as part of the political discourse, right? I think
But
everybody talks about inequality now. Yeah.
do you think that will be well received though? Because I think a lot of people my age like don't realize the repercussions of what those policies will mean for them.
Yeah, I think maybe you're right. But if your generation is really indeed the golden generation, right? As a lot of you say you are, then I think you should put your money where your mouth is, right? And if we think that if it matters, if inequality matters, then are we willing to pay higher taxes, for instance, as one of the solutions, right? It's not the
Right.
only solution, but it's one of the solutions, right? So I think actually, I think there's hope on that. There's hope on that. Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
I think something that is worth noting as well is something that Jong Han mentioned, which is democratic accountability.
John Han again. Yeah.
Maybe you need to have him as a guest
My
here.
God.
No, but I think
Yeah.
it really is true, right? Democratic accountability is super important for our generation, and I think you can see that like in the GE 2020
G20.
even,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I think, or maybe democratic accountability, right? Maybe an airy fairy term for a lot of people, right? Um, I would say it's not. Maybe we say perceptions of fairness. I think it's
Okay.
extremely important,
Yeah.
right? Which is basically another way of saying democratic accountability. One of the measures of democratic
Yep.
accountability, at least. Yeah. So I think all of those would increasingly matter. Yeah.
And do you think this would affect electoral processes in the years to come?
Well, I think okay. So there are a few things that will affect electoral processes. For instance, I'm not sure what the threshold for redrawing boundaries would be like in the future. Probably there will be a lower threshold for that, and there needs to be more justifications when the boundaries are redrawn. Right? I think we need to think about that. We need to think about the electoral tactics for sure.
Yep.
I think that's one. I think the GRC size, but I think that probably will change as well. But I don't think it's necessarily because of the perceptions of people or the receptiveness of people. I think that is actually because the GRC is no longer as secure as it was in the past, right? And also when you lose one, you lose five, right? So just as if you have a Taman, you can win five, regardless of who is the other four, who are the other four. If you have a Nicosia on the other side, you probably can lose five, regardless of who are the other four. So it can go both ways, right? So I think we will actually see more a movement towards a reduction in GRC sizes. If nothing else, it's for the preservation of the PAP. But I think it would be a positive step.
Okay. I think I let's wrap up with like two more questions, like a quick answer. And then, spicy questions. Okay. The first spicy question is, on East Coast, with DPM Heng stepping aside as the next PM, will it be a real toss-up to the next GE? And what do you think will be the PAP strategy to retain East Coast?
I think the only strategy that they have, if they are serious about retaining East Coast, and I think they will be serious about retaining East Coast, I think the strategy is to send a heavyweight minister there. Like someone who really is a heavyweight minister. And depending on who they send and depending on who the workers pick, because I don't know, if they do decide to send a heavyweight minister there, does the Workers' Party want to retain Nicosia there? Do they want to keep Nicosia there? Because if Nicosia was in most of the other constituencies, she would be an MP right now.
Yeah.
Right? So there are decisions to be made on both sides. So I think depending on the teams, then we'll really know how close that is. But don't forget, East Coast also traditionally has the Workers' Party has had a strong footing there. In East Coast, and the Workers' Party does a lot of groundwork in East Coast in between elections. And I used to live in East Coast, so I know this. I used to see Jail Gam a lot walking around, even in non-election season. Yeah.
Okay. I have one last question, which I think is actually quite an important question, which is, will you see more action taken on civil society actors? And let's kind of like put that into context of like things like POFMA, which sparked a lot of debate, and since it has been instituted, a lot of people have been criticizing the government for using POFMA like way too much.
Right. Okay. So I mean, we can do an entire lecture on civil society, right, in Singapore. So we must not think of civil society as a monolith as well. So there are some actors and some kinds of causes which the government is more than happy to work with. And work the actors and the causes, and the government is more than happy to co-opt certain causes as well, right? As long as they are non-threatening to the fundamental ideologies, right? So with regards to the traditional sets of civil society actors which have been at the end of some harsh actions from the government, I honestly don't know which way it would go, but I do hope that we will not see more action against them, because there's also, we need to be, I mean, especially people in civil society need to be careful of this good activist, bad activist dichotomy, right? Where you prop up certain activists as good activists to be followed and emulated, and other groups, and these are kind of bad activists that we must not try to. I mean, these are the sort of people who would cause devastation to our social fabric, right? So we must be careful about that. So Gary says East Coast still has Minister Maliki. Yeah, I mean, but I wouldn't say he's a heavyweight minister. I think he was, other than DPM Heng, he was definitely the strongest person in East Coast. But I think they still need to replace DPM Heng with somebody else. Right? So I don't think he can carry that by himself, even though he's a pretty strong candidate. Yeah. So, Megan, maybe I have a question for you, final one. Okay, so before I ask you anything else you want to say, right? So I would say I wanted to ask you, right, over the past 3 years, right, have your views shifted on any major issue, or if there's none, right?
Right. I would say that actually I feel like I have become a little bit more, okay, I was going to say conservative, but I don't think that's the word. Maybe I would say that I give more weight to conservative arguments. right? So I
Whereas
studied
previously, what? You dismissed them entirely? Or
no, I didn't dismiss it entirely, but I felt like I didn't agree with them at all, and I didn't really see any like weight in it, right? So I
oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Okay.
okay, I came from an art school, right? So it was like a very liberal background, and you know,
Sota, right?
yes, Sota. I came from Sota, so it was really very liberal, and whenever we did like theater, a lot of theater in Singapore tends to be more liberal, right? So
Right.
I guess that was the bulk of my exposure. So I think in the last 3 years, getting to know like politics like in Singapore and beyond Singapore has allowed me to really like consider like arguments that are more towards the right, and I
Okay.
see the logic, right? And
Right.
I guess like I would say that has made me like a more empathetic person as well, like to be able to see like why, for example, some people vote for like Trump, right?
Right.
And to not like and to not accept, because honestly it's like even when I was in Sota, like we would always say like, oh, okay, like avoid like echo chamber,
Right.
and
Right.
not everything on the news is real, but you don't really understand
Internalize
the
it.
yeah, you
Right.
don't really understand the
Right.
extent of it until you are made to take a step out,
Right.
right? And
Right.
I
Right.
think
Right.
that is what my education in PPGA has left me with.
Oh, wow. Good plug for PPGA as well.
Yes, that's
And
right.
those are very wise words for a 23-year-old.
22.
22-year-old. Okay. So, Megan, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for doing this and
Yes, thank you for
accepting my
having me.
invitation just on the day itself. So we should do more of this,
Yes,
right? And okay, so I'll see you soon, I'm sure. Okay, and thank
yes,
you
I will.
everyone for staying, the 114 who are still here at
Thank you,
1:20 a.m.
everyone.
So this has been a blast. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.